Day 1, the mask comes off. They told me I was insane. Maybe they were right. When I walked into the Oval Office on January 20, 2025, I didn't take off my mask. I won't lie to you, I kept it on during the entire inauguration. The Supreme Court justice administering the oath looked confused, but what could he say? I'd just won the most controversial election in American history. Rey Mysterio, the 619 kid from San Diego, now President of the United States. The wrestling ring had prepared me for the circus, but nothing could prepare America for what I was about to do. The first executive order I signed wasn't about healthcare. It wasn't about immigration. It was about truth. Executive Order 001, Full Governmental Transparency Initiative. Every CIA document. Every FBI file. Every backroom deal from the past 50 years. I was going to declassify it all within my first 30 days. My chief of staff, a former Navy SEAL I'll call Havoc, grabbed my shoulder as I signed it. Mr. President, this will destroy political careers. Including yours. I looked at him through the eyes of my mask. Good. That's the point. But here's what I didn't tell him yet, I'd already read some of those files during the transition. And what I found made me question whether I'd survive my first 100 days alive. The smell of old leather and power filled the Oval Office. It wasn't glamorous like they show in movies. It smelled like fear and compromise. The resolute desk had a small scratch on the left side. I ran my finger across it, wondering which president made it. Which moment of frustration? Which failure? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, you weren't supposed to win. They're watching. Day 3 is critical. I deleted it. Not because I was scared. Because I knew it was true. Week 1, the purge begins. Day 3 arrived with a sunrise that painted the Washington Monument blood red. Poetic, considering what I was about to do. I called an emergency cabinet meeting at 6 a.m. None of them had been confirmed by the Senate yet, but I didn't care. They stumbled in wearing wrinkled suits, holding coffee cups like lifelines. Fire them all, I said. My Secretary of Defense nominee General Sarah Blackwood raised an eyebrow. Sir, could you be more specific? Every bureaucrat who's been in their position for more than 15 years. Every lobbyist with White House access. Every advisor whose salary we can't explain. Gone. By Friday. The room erupted. Arguments. Accusations. One person called it unconstitutional. I let them finish. Then I stood up and removed my mask. It was the first time most of them had seen my full face since the election. The scars from decades in the ring. The broken nose that never healed quite right. The eyes that had seen both the heights of glory and the depths of betrayal. You want to know why I won? I said quietly. Because 47% of Americans are tired of the game. They're tired of politicians who promise change and deliver excuses. They're tired of watching their country get sold piece by piece to the highest bidder. I'm not a politician. I'm a fighter. And on day 8, when those transparency files go public, you'll understand why this purge is mercy compared to what's coming. What I didn't tell them, I'd found evidence that 3 current senators had taken money from foreign intelligence services. And one of them had tried to have me killed during the campaign. The taste of betrayal is bitter. Like copper pennies and ash. By day 5, we'd removed 847 federal employees. The media called it a massacre. Late-night hosts made jokes about me body slamming the bureaucracy. But something strange started happening. Applications for government jobs increased 340%. People wanted to work for an administration that wasn't corrupt. Young lawyers, military veterans, teachers. They flooded our website with resumes, with passion, with something I hadn't seen in politics for years: hope. But hope is dangerous. Hope makes you forget that predators are always watching. The Midnight Meeting. Day 9. 2:47 a.m. I couldn't sleep. The presidential bedroom felt like a cage. I walked downstairs to the Situation Room, just to think. He was already there. A man in a perfect black suit. No Secret Service escort. No badge. He sat in my chair at the head of the table, fingers steepled, smiling. "Mr. President," he said. "We need to talk about Day 15. My hand instinctively went to my side, forgetting I wasn't allowed to carry my own weapon anymore. "Who the hell are you?" "Someone who's been running this country long before you put on that mask, Rey. Or should I call you Oscar? We know everything. Your real name. Your family. That sister in Tijuana you send money to every month. The gambling debt your cousin has in Vegas." The temperature in the room dropped. Or maybe it was just my blood going cold. "Here's what's going to happen," he continued, sliding a folder across the table. "On Day 15, you're going to reverse Executive Order 001. You're going to announce that upon further review, full transparency poses a national security risk. You'll look pragmatic, presidential. And in return, we'll let you have your little reforms. Fix some health care. Build some infrastructure. Play president." I picked up the folder. Inside were photos. My daughter at her college campus. My ex-wife leaving a grocery store. My elderly mother at Sunday Mass. And if I don't, my voice was steady, but my hands weren't. He stood up, buttoning his suit jacket. "Then on Day 16, you'll attend 4 funerals. And America will learn that their wrestling president couldn't protect his own family. The mask doesn't make you bulletproof, Rey. It just makes you a bigger target." He walked out. No guards stopped him. No alarm sounded. I sat alone in that room for 3 hours, holding those photos, wondering, what would you do? Would you sacrifice transparency to save your family, or would you risk everything for a principle? The people who voted for me wanted a fighter. But fighters in the ring don't have to worry about their mothers becoming collateral damage. I made my decision at sunrise. Day 15, the press conference. The White House press room was packed. Every major network. Foreign correspondents. Bloggers. The smell of anticipation mixed with expensive perfume and cheap cologne. I walked to the podium wearing my mask. "Today," I began, "I'm supposed to tell you that Executive Order 001 was a mistake. That transparency poses too great a risk to national security. That America isn't ready for the truth." I paused. Pulled out my phone. Hit a button. Instead, I'm live streaming this to 50 million followers. What I'm about to show you can't be censored, can't be edited, can't be buried. The screens behind me lit up. Documents. Names. Dates. Transactions. Senator Michael Hartley of Virginia, $2.3 million from a Chinese shell corporation in 2019. Congresswoman Jennifer Vasquez of Florida, insider trading on defense contracts, net profit $8.7 million. Former CIA Director Thomas Reeves, authorized domestic surveillance on 47 journalists who reported on government corruption. The room exploded. Shouting. Cameras flashing. Reporters screaming questions. But I wasn't done. And last night, a man came to the situation room. No name. No badge. He threatened my family. He told me to shut up or watch them die. So I'm making a public promise right now, to whoever you are, wherever you're watching from, you want to come after me, come after me. But if one hair on my family's head is harmed, I will dedicate every remaining day of my presidency to exposing every secret, every crime, every lie that keeps your shadow government running. You bet on me being a coward. You lost. I removed my mask completely. My name is Oscar Gutierrez Rubio. I'm the President of the United States. And I'm not afraid of you anymore. The broadcast cut off after 12 minutes. Someone somewhere killed the feed. But by then, 89 million people had seen it, downloaded it, shared it, and 3 hours later, someone tried to kill me. The assassination attempt. Day 15, 7:43 p.m. I was in the presidential limousine, heading back from a Veterans Affairs meeting. Havoc sat across from me, scrolling through threat assessments on his tablet. "Sir, we're seeing unprecedented chatter on encrypted channels. NSA flagged 23 potential." The explosion cut him off. The car in front of us, a Secret Service vehicle, erupted in flames. Our driver swerved. Bulletproof glass cracked but held as something heavy slammed into us from the right. Time does this strange thing during violence. It stretches. Every sound becomes sharp. The screech of tires on asphalt. The pop 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 of gunfire. Havoc yelling into his radio. The taste of adrenaline, metallic and electric. Our limo flipped. I remember thinking, absurdly, about a match I had in 2004. Eddie Guerrero had hit me with a chair shot that broke my nose. I'd finished the match anyway. 20,000 people chanting my name while blood poured down my chest. This was different. This was death, patient and professional, coming for me. The limo settled upside down. Havoc was unconscious, blood running from his hairline. I tried my door. Jammed. Kicked out the window, remembered too late it was bulletproof. My shoulder screamed in pain. Footsteps. Multiple. Coordinated. They were coming. I found Havoc's sidearm, checked the magazine. 11 rounds. Against how many? The back door exploded inward. Breaching charge. Smoke filled the cabin. And then I did something they didn't expect. I attacked. Years of lucha libre taught me one thing: when you're smaller, when you're outmatched, when everyone expects you to run, you dive straight into the chaos. I came out of that smoke low and fast, firing. Not to kill. To scatter. To confuse. It worked for about 4 seconds. Then someone hit me so hard I tasted blood. Not my blood. His. I'd bitten through my own lip on impact. We fought in the middle of Constitution Avenue. 6 men in tactical gear versus one president with a broken rib and a gun with 8 rounds left. The headlines would call it a miracle that I survived. But it wasn't a miracle. It was the counter-terrorism unit I'd secretly activated on day 2. The one I hadn't told my own cabinet about. They came in fast, 2 helicopters, 12 operators, all veterans of units so classified they legally don't exist. The fight lasted 9 minutes. When it ended, 4 attackers were dead. 2 escaped. I was alive, but barely. As they loaded me into an ambulance, I grabbed the lead operator's vest. "Tell me you got one alive for questioning." He shook his head. They all had cyanide capsules, sir. Bit down the second they knew they couldn't escape. Professional. Committed. Willing to die to kill me. Who sends assassins like that, and more importantly, why did they fail? Day 22, the underground briefing. I governed from a secret location for the next week. Somewhere in the Appalachian Mountains, in a bunker built during the Cold War. The doctors said my rib would heal in 6 weeks. I told them I had 4. General Blackwood brought me the forensic report. The explosives were military grade, but old. Probably stolen from a depot in the 90s. The weapons were clean, no serial numbers, no fingerprints. But we found something in one attacker's stomach. She slid me a photo. A small metal cylinder, no bigger than a pill. Data storage device. We cracked it this morning. It's a list, Mr. President. Of what? Names. 73 people. Politicians, judges, military brass, corporate CEOs. Each one with a number next to it. I studied the list. My name was there. Rey Mysterio, Oscar Gutierrez, Priority 1, 50 million. It's a hit list, I said. How many of these people are still alive? All of them. So far. Then we're not dealing with assassins. We're dealing with a system. Someone's built a marketplace for political murder, and they just made me the grand prize. The taste of rage is hot. Like jalapenos and gasoline. I made a decision that would define the rest of my first 100 days. I'm going public again. Day 30. State of the Union Address. But I'm not doing it from the House chamber. I'm doing it from Times Square, surrounded by citizens. If they want to kill me, they'll have to do it in front of the whole country. My advisors called it insane. The Secret Service threatened to resign. But I'd learned something in that upside-down limousine: fear is a choice. And I was choosing rage instead. Week 5, The Alliance. Day 28. I returned to the White House. The media called it triumphant. They showed footage of me walking across the South Lawn, mask back on, waving to supporters who'd gathered outside the gates. What they didn't show was how much it hurt to breathe. How every step felt like knives in my chest. But pain is fuel. Always has been. That night, I got a visitor. Unannounced. Unauthorized. She walked past 6 security checkpoints like they didn't exist. Former Senator Maria Cortez. She'd lost her seat 3 years ago after exposing corruption in the defense contracting process. They destroyed her reputation, bankrupted her family, made her radioactive in D.C. She sat across from me in the Oval Office, uninvited. "You're going to die," she said simply. Day 30, day 40, doesn't matter. They'll get you eventually. You know that, right? So why are you here? She smiled. It wasn't kind. Because I spent 5 years building a network of people they couldn't buy, couldn't kill, couldn't intimidate. Journalists they couldn't silence. Lawyers they couldn't threaten. Soldiers who actually remember their oath. And we've been waiting for someone stupid enough or brave enough to use what we've collected. Why me? Because you already made the choice most politicians never make. You chose truth over survival. Now I'm offering you the weapons to finish what you started. She slid a hard drive across the desk. Everything on that list, the 73 names, we have files on each one. Their crimes. Their connections. Their bank accounts. Enough to bring down the entire infrastructure that's been running this country like a puppet show. I picked up the drive. It was heavier than it should be. What's the catch? If you use this, you can't stop halfway. You'll have to burn it all down. The people we're talking about don't just control politics. They own media networks, banks, tech companies. They'll turn America against you. They'll make you look like a tyrant, a conspiracy theorist, a lunatic in a wrestling mask who destroyed the government. And if I don't use it? She stood to leave. Then you'll die having changed nothing. Another president who talked big and delivered small, another name on their list they can cross off. She left me with that hard drive and a question I'm now asking you: would you press the button that saves democracy but destroys your legacy? Day 30, Times Square. They erected a bulletproof podium in the center of Times Square. 40,000 people filled the streets. Another 200 million watched online. I stood there, 8 p.m., January 30th, wearing my mask and a simple black suit. My fellow Americans, I began. 30 days ago, I promised you transparency. I promised you change. Tonight, I'm going to fulfill one of those promises. And break the other. Confusion rippled through the crowd. The transparency I promised, the files, the secrets, the truth about how your government really works, I'm not releasing it tonight. I'm releasing it right now. All of it. 5 terabytes of documents, uploaded to a decentralized network that can't be shut down, can't be censored, can't be controlled. Behind me, the massive screens in Times Square started displaying documents. Names. Crimes. Proof. Senator Hartley didn't just take Chinese money. He sold them classified military technology. Congresswoman Vasquez didn't just commit insider trading. She helped draft the laws that made her trades legal while keeping everyone else criminalized. And that man who threatened my family, his name is Marcus Webb. He's a former CIA operations director who runs a private military company that has, quote, neutralized 47 political targets in the last decade. The crowd was silent. The kind of silence that precedes an earthquake. But here's the promise I'm breaking: I told you I'd be your president. I told you I'd work within the system. I lied. Because the system is broken beyond repair. What I'm announcing tonight isn't reform. It's revolution. I pulled out the hard drive Maria gave me and held it up. On this device are the names of 73 people who've created a shadow government. They don't get elected. They don't face voters. They don't answer to anyone. They just take. And take. And take. Tonight, I'm taking something back. Your country. Executive Order 015, the Criminal Elite Prosecution Initiative. Every name on this list will face immediate federal investigation. Every asset will be frozen. Every communication will be monitored. And here's the beautiful part: I'm not doing it through backroom deals or secret courts. I'm doing it in public. Live. With every American watching. The screens changed. Real-time feeds of FBI raids. 17 simultaneous operations across the country. Corporate executives being walked out in handcuffs. Politicians' homes being searched. Bank accounts being seized. You want to know why they tried to kill me? Because I'm not playing their game. I'm ending it. Then the shooting started. The chaos. Shots came from 3 directions. Professional. Coordinated. The bulletproof podium shattered. Secret Service agents threw themselves over me, but I pushed them off, dove into the crowd instead. If they wanted to kill me in front of America, they'd have to shoot through Americans first. Chaos. screaming. The smell of gunpowder and fear. But something extraordinary happened. The crowd didn't run. They surrounded me. 40,000 people formed a human shield. Strangers linking arms. Parents covering children but not fleeing. Veterans positioning themselves between me and the shooters. The counter-terrorism units I'd activated neutralized the shooters in 4 minutes. 3 dead. 1 captured alive this time. When the gunfire stopped, I stood up. Blood on my suit, not mine. The man next to me, a plumber from Queens named David Rodriguez, had taken a bullet meant for me. He was alive, barely. I knelt beside him as paramedics rushed in. Why, I asked. Why didn't you run? He grabbed my hand, blood on his fingers. Because, you didn't run. Mr. President. That moment changed everything. Day 40, the counterattack. The next 10 days were war. The media empire struck first. 3 major networks ran 24/7 coverage calling me a dictator. A fascist. A wrestler who'd gone insane with power. They showed edited footage making it look like I'd staged the assassination attempt. Created deepfakes of me saying I planned to suspend elections. Then came the economic assault. Stock market crashed 23% in 1 day. Banks threatened to freeze lending. Corporate CEOs held a press conference demanding my impeachment. But they'd made a critical mistake, they'd underestimated how angry Americans actually were. The documents I'd released showed everything. Decades of corruption. Systematic looting of the middle class. Wars started for profit. Laws written by lobbyists. A complete capture of democracy by oligarchs. Protests erupted nationwide. Not against me. Against them. By day 45, 15 million Americans had taken to the streets. Not violent. Not destructive. Just present. Occupying every state capital. Every corporate headquarters mentioned in the leaks. Every media network that had lied to them. General Blackwood entered the Oval Office on day 47 with news. Sir, we've intercepted communications. They're planning something massive. Day 60. They're calling it Protocol Omega. Which is? We don't know yet. But it involves multiple coordinated attacks. Not just on you. On infrastructure. Power grids. Water supplies. They're going to create a national crisis and blame it on the chaos your reforms caused. I looked at the map of America spread across my desk. Red pins marking every site from the leaked documents. Blue pins marking protest locations. And now, yellow pins marking potential targets for Protocol Omega. The question wasn't whether I could stop them. The question was whether I was willing to do what stopping them required. Day 50, the proposal. I called a joint session of Congress. Most members didn't attend. 103 of them were already under investigation. But enough showed up to make it official. I'm introducing 3 constitutional amendments, I announced. And I'm giving the American people a direct vote on all 3. Not through Congress. Not through lobbyists. Direct democracy. Digital voting, paper backup, supervised by the military and international observers. Amendment 1, no person who has taken money from a foreign government, foreign corporation, or through any shell company, can hold federal office. Period. Amendment 2, all campaign financing becomes public. Every dollar disclosed. Every donor named. Maximum individual contribution, $1,000. No corporate money. No POC money. No dark money. Amendment 3, Congressional stock trading is now a felony. You want to serve the people, then you can't profit from insider knowledge while you do it. The chamber erupted. Half cheering. Half screaming. These amendments will be voted on in 30 days. Day 80. If the American people approve them, they'll be ratified immediately. If they don't, then I'll accept that I was wrong. That maybe you do want the corruption. That maybe the old system serves you better than the truth. I paused. But I don't think you'll vote that way. I think you're tired of watching politicians become millionaires while you struggle to pay rent. I think you're tired of watching your kids' futures get sold to the highest bidder. I think you're ready to take your country back. The question is, are you brave enough to vote for it? Day 60, Protocol Omega. They hit us at 3 a.m. Coordinated cyber attacks on power grids in 6 states. Simultaneous explosions at 3 major water treatment facilities. A chemical plant fire in Louisiana. An attempted breach of CDC servers. It was designed to look like domestic terrorism caused by my reforms. To prove that instability follows radical change. But we'd been ready. Maria Cortez's network had infiltrated their communications. We'd known the targets for 5 days. Quietly reinforced security. Placed counter-terrorism units in position. Set traps. Of the 12 planned attacks, we stopped 9 completely. Minimized damage on 2 others. Only one, a power substation in Nevada, went fully offline. And we captured 34 operatives. Not suicide pill martyrs this time. Actual people we could interrogate, prosecute, expose. By sunrise, I was back on live stream from the Situation Room. Last night, the shadow government tried to burn America down rather than lose their power. They failed. The men and women we captured are talking. And what they're telling us confirms everything in those leaked documents and reveals operations even worse than we imagined. I held up photos. Not of the operatives. Of their employers. Marcus Webb didn't act alone. He answers to a council of 9 people. The real power behind 50 years of American policy. I'm naming them now. I did. All 9. Their faces filled every screen in America. You wanted a crisis, you've got one. But it's yours, not ours. In 72 hours, federal marshals will arrest each of you. And unlike every other time powerful people faced consequences in this country, there will be no plea deals. No house arrest. No suspended sentences. You'll face trial. Public trial. With every American watching. Because that's what justice looks like when it's not for sale. Day 70, the trial begins. They built a courtroom in Constitution Hall specifically for this. Transparent walls. Cameras everywhere. No jury. I'd asked for a panel of 12 judges selected randomly from federal courts nationwide. No special privileges. No backroom negotiations. The evidence was overwhelming. Financial records. Communications. Testimony from the captured operatives. Video footage of planning sessions. 40 years of crimes laid out in meticulous detail. But the defense was smart. President Mysterio, the lead attorney argued, is conducting a political purge disguised as justice. He's using the trauma of an assassination attempt to eliminate his opponents. This isn't prosecution, it's persecution. It was effective. Polling showed 38% of Americans agreed with him. The same media networks that had enabled the corruption for decades suddenly became champions of due process and presumption of innocence. On day 75, I made an announcement that shocked everyone. I'm testifying. As a witness. Under oath. Subject to cross-examination. My own lawyers begged me not to. Mr. President, they'll shred you. Every decision you've made. Every executive order. Every possible overreach. They'll put your presidency on trial. Good, I said. Let them. Day 77, the testimony. I sat in that witness chair for 11 hours. They asked about the transparency orders. The purges. The secret counter-terrorism units. The constitutional amendments. Every decision I'd made in 77 days. And I answered honestly. Did I exceed my authority? I said. Probably. Did I make decisions that pushed the boundaries of executive power? Absolutely. But here's what you need to understand, the system these 9 people built was designed to be too big to challenge through normal means. They controlled Congress through donations. They controlled courts through carefully selected appointments. They controlled the media through ownership and advertising dollars. Fighting them by the book was playing a game they'd rigged. So yes, I bent rules. I used emergency powers broadly. I took risks with democratic norms. And I'd do it again. Because the alternative was watching America slowly die while pretending the disease wasn't terminal. The defense attorney pounced. So you're admitting you're no better than them, that you seized power just like they did? I looked directly at the camera. At America. Here's the difference, when this is over, I'm giving the power back. On day 100, I'm signing an executive order that restricts presidential emergency powers to only genuine national security threats, requires congressional oversight for any extended emergency declaration, and establishes an independent review board for executive overreach. I'm closing the loopholes I used. Because I'm not trying to build my empire. I'm trying to burn down theirs. They took power to keep it. I'm taking power to give it back to you. The courtroom went silent. Day 80, the vote. Amendment voting day arrived like a storm. 178 million Americans cast ballots. The highest turnout for any vote in U.S. history. Digital voting worked flawlessly, every vote verified, every result transparent, every recount automatic and public. I watched the results come in from the Oval Office. Maria stood beside me. Havoc recovered from his injuries monitored security feeds. General Blackwood coordinated military readiness in case of unrest. The results appeared at 8 p.m., Amendment 1 Foreign Money Ban, 73% approved. Amendment 2 Campaign Finance Reform, 81% approved. Amendment 3 Congressional Trading Ban, 86% approved. America had spoken. Overwhelmingly. But I couldn't celebrate yet. Because we'd intercepted one final communication from the Shadow Council. If Day 80 passes, activate Contingency Rome. We still didn't know what Contingency Rome was. But we were about to find out. Day 85, Contingency Rome. It wasn't an attack. It was an evacuation. Between days 81 and 84, 17 private jets left the United States. Aboard them, 41 of the most wanted figures from the leaked documents. Destination, various countries without extradition treaties. They were running. Taking billions in assets with them. Planning to rebuild their empire from outside U.S. jurisdiction. I called an emergency National Security Council meeting. We can't let them escape, I said. Everything we've done means nothing if they regroup abroad. Mr. President, one advisor cautioned, pursuing them internationally could be seen as overreach. It might violate sovereignty agreements. I don't care. I cut him off. We're not invading anyone. We're requesting extradition. Officially. Publicly. And if these countries refuse, then the American people will know which nations harbor economic terrorists. We issued extradition requests to 12 countries. Offered evidence. Made it all public. And an interesting thing happened. 8 countries immediately complied. Not out of principle. Out of fear. The leaked documents showed how the Shadow Council had manipulated their economies too. They wanted these people gone. By day 90, we'd recovered 29 of the 41 fugitives. The remaining 12 went into deeper hiding. But they'd lost their networks. Their access. Their power. They'd become exactly what they feared most, irrelevant. Day 95, the reckoning. The trials concluded. All 9 council members were convicted. Sentences ranging from 25 years to life. No parole, no special prison accommodations. 103 members of Congress resigned rather than face prosecution. 47 were indicted anyway. Corporate executives at 12 major companies were removed by emergency shareholder votes. Media networks underwent massive restructuring. America was bleeding corruption out like poison from a wound. But the cost had been enormous. 23 people killed in various attacks and confrontations. Hundreds injured. The economy had contracted 8%. International relationships were strained. Half the political establishment wanted me impeached. On day 97, I held my final press conference of the first 100 days. I'm exhausted, I admitted. This job, this fight has taken everything I have. I've been shot at, blown up, threatened, lied about, and declared everything from a hero to a fascist depending on which channel you watch. And I still have 1,361 days left in my term. I paused. But here's what I want you to understand. Those first 100 days, that was the easy part. We exposed the infection. Now comes the hard work, healing. Rebuilding. Creating new systems that can't be corrupted as easily. That's going to take all of us. Not just your president in a wrestling mask. But every American who believes we can do better. The power I took, I'm giving it back. To Congress, once we have a Congress that represents you instead of donors. To courts that judge based on law, not political connections. To a free press that investigates truth instead of protecting profits. And most importantly, to you. Because this was never about me being your savior. It was about me clearing the path so you could save yourselves. The mask was never about hiding who I am. It was about showing you who you could be, brave enough to fight, strong enough to stand, willing to take the hits, and still get back up. Day 100, the legacy. My 100th day in office arrived with spring rain. I signed Executive Order 100 at 10 a.m. The one that restricted presidential emergency powers. That closed the loopholes I'd exploited. That made it harder for any future president, including me, to do what I'd done. This is my gift to future tyrants, I said to the gathered press. It'll be harder for them to seize power now. And if they try, well, at least I showed Americans what fighting back looks like. The numbers from those first 100 days were staggering. 847 federal employees terminated. 103 congressional resignations, removals. 9 shadow council members convicted. 73 major figures indicted. 847 billion in stolen assets recovered. 3 constitutional amendments ratified. one president who survived 4 assassination attempts. But the numbers didn't tell the real story. The real story was in the applications from young people wanting to enter public service again. The donations to investigative journalism that had increased 340%. The town halls where citizens actually showed up. The elections where 89% of voters participated instead of 47%. America was waking up. Angry, yes, divided, absolutely. But awake. That evening, I returned to the Oval Office alone. Put my mask on the Resolute desk. Looked at it for a long time. The mask was supposed to be a symbol. A reminder that anyone could be a hero if they just had the courage to try. But somewhere in those 100 days, I'd realized something: the mask wasn't what made me brave. The American people were what made me brave. Their willingness to stand in Times Square when bullets flew. Their votes despite threats. Their refusal to let fear win. I was never the hero of the story. They were. I picked up my phone. Texted Maria, Phase 2. Her reply came immediately, Phase 2. Time to rebuild what we burned down. This time, better. I smiled. For the first time in 100 days, I let myself feel hope instead of rage. The fight wasn't over. It would never be over. But at least now, we were fighting on terms we'd chosen. Against enemies we could see. For a future we could actually believe in. And if another shadow council rose in 20 years, well, at least they'd know what happened to the last one. At least they'd understand that Americans, when pushed far enough, will find someone crazy enough to lead them through fire. Even if that someone wears a mask and learned everything he knows about justice from a wrestling ring. Day 100 ended with a question I'll leave you with: if you had the power to change everything, but it cost you everything you loved, would you still fight? Because that's the choice every generation faces. And how you answer it determines whether freedom survives or dies. Continue 19:58. While you watch. The rain stopped. The sun came out. And somewhere in America, a kid put on a homemade mask and decided they could be brave too. That's the real legacy of the first 100 days.